know, we like to talk about this every so often, but now that the rotation is, rounding into shape, they're trying to stretch Shohei out. Is there still space for Clayton Kershaw on a postseason roster? You knew it was coming, right?
Yeah, I did. I could just see it in Greg's face that he was about to ask this question, and Greg is just so eager. Look, I'm not delusional to the point where I think Kershaw is better than any of the 4 guys ahead of him in the rotation. Kershaw has been awesome, but he just doesn't have the strikeout stuff that you need. The thing that I speculated, and Greg, as you know, I'm not going to call you a Kershaw hater, but maybe
Absolutely
a Kershaw
not.
skeptic,
Absolutely not.
or I'll let you decide what language is appropriate for yourself. But like, is there a world where Clayton Kershaw is the greatest version of 2024 Brent Honeywell the world has ever seen in the postseason, where he just becomes like this stretched out long man that is either there to mop up duty in games where they need somebody to eat innings, or if they're up by 1 million runs to save the bullpen? Like, there's always a spot for that. They're going to have an extra spot in the bullpen because of the Ohtani rule. So basically they're going to carry 4 pitchers at the cost of 3 in the rotation, assuming health. And so I do think there's no way Kershaw, if he's healthy and pitching this well, isn't on the postseason roster. And I also agree with everyone that doesn't want him coming in for like a 3-out stint in the 8th inning of a 1-run game. So I just think this in-between role, Greg, is where I would pencil him in if the playoffs started tomorrow.
I mean, maybe I can see that a little bit, but at the same time, like, is that what Kershaw now is? We're penciling him in as a 14th pitcher on a playoff roster that's going to come in situations when you're up by 8 or down by 8. That's what Clayton Kershaw has become.
If we're healthy, I mean, the 4 guys ahead of him,
you do understand what you're trying to say towards Kershaw. I mean, who doesn't get that spot? Probably like a Justin Robleski, but that also means that like Emmett Sheehan doesn't get that role, or
those
somebody
guys are
like,
relievers.
Yeah, they will be, but that's what you're saying that Kershaw is going to be. So I don't know. I just can't imagine a world where Clayton Kershaw is the 14th pitcher on a roster. I don't know.
So do you think he doesn't make the postseason roster at all then if things continue in the trajectory they're on?
If he keeps playing well, I think they will find a role for him. But like, what is that role? And if it is like I don't know. I would think that they might go with somebody else. If they leave him on there, it feels like it's like going into the All-Star game as a Legends pick. You're putting him as a Legends pick into a postseason roster. That's what it feels like. Not saying it's wrong or right. That's what that feels like to me.
There is something a little bit sad about the idea of Clayton Kershaw
Right.
in mop-up duty
Yeah.
in a playoff game. I mean, I do think Dave Roberts is going to do his best to try to find an actual role for him. Because here's the thing, I don't even think Kershaw wants to be that guy, right? Yeah. Like it just doesn't seem like that's the way he would want to end his career potentially, as like, hey man, we just need you to get us through these next couple innings to save the rest of the bullpen so that we're ready for game 3 or whatever it is.
Marcus, let me ask you this question. Like, is there one of those other 4 guys? I think Ohtani would be the obvious one, but would you move one of those other 4 guys into a different type of role? Because I think we all agree, and even me, the biggest Kershaw guy out here, like he's not going to be effective with the stuff that he has in a high leverage relief role. And so the question is, like, would you rather have Kershaw as your 4th starter and somebody like Shohei Ohtani available to come into high leverage spots in the back of games? Obviously, that gets complicated with him being in the lineup and trying to warm up. But I mean, like, those are the type of trade-offs that I think the Dodgers are going to ask.
And pitch and you kill it.
Right. Not 104, but a guy that is triple digits and has thrown triple digits this year, and we haven't seen him in a while. And all the hype of the offseason, I think that anybody that was paying attention knew it was disproportionate to what the expectations were going to be, was Roki Sasaki.
Yeah.
I really, truly believe that had the Dodgers not opened their season in Japan, that Roki Sasaki opens the season in the minor leagues. I think that's probably how it was most likely to go. He's got electric stuff. He's got an incredible arm, but he is green. This is not Yamamoto, who came over a multiple time Sawamura Award winner, a finished product, right? A finished professional pitcher. Sasaki was he might be great. And they shut him down, shoulder stuff. His velocity had dipped into the mid-90s instead of the high 90s, triple digits. Well, he's going to do a simulated game this weekend. He's going to go on a rehab assignment. And I heard words that scared the living daylights out of me, using him out of the pen in October.
Oh.
No blanking way.
Why are you guys both like poo-poo that?
Because he walks people.
Yeah, and you don't want somebody with that little high leverage experience at the big league level to be only relied on in that spot because of the way that his arm is working at the time. That's just too many risks in one place to just say, oh, well, he might be electric if it all comes together, maybe in a situation in the playoffs. That's too risky to me personally. I don't that's not my kind of man management when it comes to bullpen.
No.
Where'd you hear that?
No.
Yeah.
That he's
the whispers? Yeah.
Just
the whispers.
what? No, he's pitching a simulated game this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to go on a minor league. There's no room for him in the rotation.
No.
They are loaded up there. The only spot where you look at and say there's some need is the back end or the middle part. And he has not pitched in either of those spots. And I'm not saying this to judge the young man at all, but you saw how emotional he was when he was struggling early in the season. Like he's a baby. And not in like an emotional way. He's just getting started. He's going to be very good, I believe. That let's be extra careful here. And then just from a flat out strategic component, if you walk guys in the playoffs, it's a death sentence.
You're screwed.
You just can't walk people, and he walks a ton of people.
I don't want to say this and sound the wrong way, but DeMarco, this is a situation where if you were ever to look at what any potential downside is of what being the Dodgers is in terms of your scouting is so great, you've got all the money in the world, you might reach in situations where you don't need to and put guys in spots that are not actually helpful for their development. And I think this is one with Sasaki. It's a bit too big of a pond, and it was from the beginning, and you're right. If he had started in the minors and it had gotten up to this point, that's a totally different scenario than, hey, look at our brand new flashy pony.
Yeah.
Carrying it around the birthday party. Next thing you know, the pony takes a crap in front of the piñata. You know, I'm using proverbial terms here.
Gotcha.
And then everybody's like, oh, what happened? And I think this is where a team that's not the Dodgers probably doesn't do that because they don't have those kind of embarrassment of riches to just take guys and say, we'll figure it out later. And I say all this to say, I really hope this works out for this kid.
Me too.
Because you never know. You talk about ruining guys. I don't think that they're on a ruinous level, but it's the biggest franchise in the world at this point. He's going to be in big spots if for whatever reason he just can't get it going. It's a big mistake to make from a roster construction standpoint. It's unfortunate because he's a nice guy.
Let me throw this at you guys. And does it change the way that maybe you do the math moving forward? Let's say he goes on a rehab assignment, looks good.
Okay.
You bring him back and you don't put him in the rotation, but you use him deliberately in the sense of we're not going to put him in a ton of sticky spots. There are a lot of spots that relief pitchers come in that are as comfortable as you could reasonably expect.
I have a feeling I know what you're going to say here, but
and he does well.
Okay.
And he's not walking people. And he looks like a promising young arm, and he continues to improve incrementally through, let's say, the end of August through the early part of September. And then as you get into the middle of September, you start to put him in slightly more high leverage situations. He continues to pitch well. Does that change it to where all of a sudden because now we're getting down to roster, I got to figure out who I'm using in the playoffs,
The first name that came up was Kershaw.
In what regard?
If he pitches well.
Kershaw's going to be on that team.
You think so?
If he's
okay,
healthy,
I thought
he's
that's
going
where
to be
you
on
were
that
headed.
team.
Well,
okay.
I think what you're asking, Travis, is do you just plain let him get back to whatever he wants to be, or do you try to find a role for him and say, go do that? That's the two questions you have from a strategy standpoint. And honestly, I think I'd take the latter. I don't know that just kind of letting him grow and saying, okay, if we get 15 decent appearances out of you, we're going to be. To me, I'm saying, you might want to be, you need to learn what your role is and figure that out, because that to me, it's just a smarter way to get a kid back into shape because it's a little bit more focused.
But what if they need him? Like, because you look at what they have right now.
Issue.
What they have right now is knocking on wood, is a rotation that is full and healthy and lethal. Okay. So you got Ohtani, Snell, Glasnow, and Yamamoto. Okay. There's your four guys in the playoffs. All of those guys are healthy and pitching well. So I don't need a starting pitcher. What I do need is maybe a bridge guy or two. And they still have not found, maybe Brock Stewart will morph into this. Maybe Blake Trinan will rediscover his command. They don't have a shutdown guy at the back end. They don't have a guy that the big 3 outs, maybe they're in the 7th inning, maybe they're in the 8th inning, but They don't have that.
I'm not putting him in that position.
Okay.
I'm just not. I mean, honestly, when you were talking about this, the position I was thinking of is opener. To be quite honest, if you're going to find yourself doing that,
they might not need that.
They might not need that. But we remember how many bullpen games there were last year in the playoffs alone, and that was due to injury and other things. But that's where I'm thinking. If I'm saying, hey, here's a goal. You know what I'm saying? There might be a situation where you start a couple games, give me one, give me two, we'll see where you at. I'm not doing that with bullpen appearances. That's just not the order of operations I would take that.
Real quick, he's healthy, and he's pitched like he's pitched this season. There's no way Clayton Kershaw is not on a playoff roster, right? No
I would
chance.
agree with that. I mean, if they're going to put him on all-star rosters randomly, they probably should put him on
but
the
again,
playoff
there's no
roster.
stakes in an all-star.
No, I know, but I mean,
That
I'm
was
just
different.
saying that the reason why that happens is because there's probably not going to be another run, and I feel like leaving Kershaw off a playoff roster, and that's a tough decision.
How are you going to use him?
I don't know. You got to ask him. I think you ask him. I mean, and that's where, so that's a situation where I do trust a guy. I say, hey, Clayton, where do you think you can do this? Do you think you can be a spot guy? Do you think you could come in and get an out in an eighth? Where do you find your body? Because as a veteran that's given enough to the game, I trust him. I don't trust a Sasaki and say, oh, figure it out. We're going to put you there. No. That's where I'm asking the guy, the player.
At least somewhat disrespectful to not give him the ball to start a game in the playoffs?
This is what we're talking about regarding these commemorative handouts.
Yeah.
That's why it's a tough situation. I don't want to be the guy that has to tell Clayton Kershaw you might not make a roster.
Without question, their fifth best option as a starting pitcher.
Sure.
Now, that's not because he hasn't pitched well. It's because those other four guys are number ones.
Correct.
He is no longer a number one.
I wonder if Clayton Kershaw would have it in him to fall on that sword and say, you know what?
Hell no.
You don't need
I don't think so either.
No.
You don't think that's the trade-off for handing him an all-star bid?
No.
I
think he thinks he can do it.
I'm guessing for him. He thinks the best option is him.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, we'll see. That's a good question to ask him,
Yeah.
for sure. I'm very, that is more intriguing to me, frankly, than Sasaki at this point.
The only reason it is even a reasonable topic is because he's pitched so well.
Yeah, he's actually back in form.
You need him to pitch like this to get into the postseason. But if Snell, Yamamoto, Ohtani, and Glasnow are cooking, he's a piece that you don't have to have.
No, especially not if you get to skip a series.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Which, who knows?
Yeah, we don't know about that.